Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pascal. I'm CTO of Data Minded and Conveyor Data. Conveyor Data being the product brand of Data Minded. With me, I have Christophe. Christophe, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Pascal. I'm Christophe. I am working as a senior consultant with organizations that want to adopt data to product thinking, data mesh principles, and I'm also the product owner of our open source products, the Data Product Portal.
The first question I want to ask you is just to set the scene, can you briefly describe what is data product thinking all about?
What is data product thinking? Data product thinking is shifting the way organizations work with data. And this is, first of all, very important for organizations that want to scale their data initiatives across multiple domains, multiple initiatives, and so on. Data product thinking is changing the narrative a bit, that you consider, of course, data as a product and not as a project. So what we usually see in organizations is there is a project, make this data available and do something with it. You have to change the narrative that you build data and you share data with the rest of the organization, but you consider it as a product. And what does that mean? It means you, as with a product, you provide it to consumers and you build something that the consumers want to consume, and you tailor it on how the consumers want to use that data. So that's a big difference. So it's about treating it as a product, and also the fact that you focus on the consumer of your data instead of just making a project, making data.
If you really take data as a product, it means there's a long horizon of actually providing that data to the organization and keeping it maintainable.
Yes.
And then there's of course, all the other aspects you just mentioned about really putting the responsibility of offering to the rest of the organization.
Yes. Data product is kind of like a prescriptive drug or medicine, where it's not just a chemical compound that people take in on a daily basis or whatever kind of schedule. But it's a lot more information that's also in there. So there is a product leaflet explaining all the information in there. Sometimes you require a prescription. It is also specific for a particular person that has a certain disease. You need to provide quality guarantees, a list of ingredients, expiration dates. So there is a lot of additional information you also put with your products, so the consumers can understand what it's all about and take that drug in some kind of a self-service manner. And providing that information is also a big part in how to treat data as a product.
I really like the analogy, and I think actually you mentioned a magic word, right? Prescriptive. Yeah. Meaning it's not that you can just grab all the data you want like in a supermarket, right?
Yeah, that's true. There are some drugs that you can just freely buy, but they're usually not the dangerous ones. You can make the analogy with public data sets, for example. Everybody should be able to get access to those. But sometimes you also need that the owners of the data need to more or less assess whether the data can be used for that particular use case. And it's over there that data product thinking can also help, because it's a way of thinking, it's a process, it's an interaction.
So everything you're saying actually does resonate with me, and I absolutely agree. So if you would kind of break it down in bullet points, what challenges is data product thinking actually solving?
In many organizations, there is this, what I like to call perceived view or perceived impression of bad data quality, and it's very hard to understand what it actually means, because everybody interprets it in a different way. But it usually comes from a situation where you have use case teams building operational applications and databases and so on, and then there is a central data team extracting all of that data from those databases, putting it in a data warehouse, and then you start building other stuff on top of it. I'll give an example: dashboards. But the operational team doesn't care what the data central data team is doing. So they constantly make changes in databases. They add fields, they remove fields, they give fields a different meaning. And the problem with that is, if you just extract the data and make it available, you basically break things all of the time. And data product thinking is also mostly about and that you give the responsibility also to the use case teams that have the data to make the data available in a certain format and way of working and contracts, as you will it, on top of it, that the consumers can then rely on to build data products and other data assets based on that.
So, Christoph, the way you're phrasing it, it's like traditionally we had like these operational data plane where all operational data lives, and on the other side, like we had the analytical data plane. Actually, what you're saying is very close to like what you're saying is overlaying these two and basically making the people who have an operational responsibility of the data also partially responsible of exposing that data in the analytical data plane, right? It comes very close to trends we've seen in the past on other topics, right? It's typically called shift left.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And you mentioned briefly, like, hey, we used to have centralized teams, right? That's more or less what we have, right? So is this a new problem, and why is the time right for it now?
It's not a new problem. The problem already existed and existed for a very long time, but it often wasn't a big deal. The main reason is basically there are many data needs. And all of those needs no longer can be addressed by a central team. And the IT central team becomes a bottleneck. And you should basically, and the team, you cannot do it centrally anymore. It doesn't scale anymore. It gives a lot of problems. Departments are constantly fighting for priorities. And in the end, if they think it's a valuable use case, they should be able to build it themselves. And that means they have to take the ownership and responsibility also themselves. So this also changes the narrative of the central teams doing everything. Over time, they have to evolve to platform teams, as I like to call it, and those platform teams should provide capabilities for those teams linked to the domains to be able to build the data products in self-service.
Before we go into like a roadmap and how to solve that, I had one more question. Like, we talk about all these things, right? Like, I'll briefly summarize like what you said. It's not really a new problem. Well, it's partially a new problem. It's because like we have way more data use cases and way more data available than we had in the past. In the past, the central team could work. Now, with the growing amount of data use cases, it is becoming more and more a problem, or at least that's what I got from you. Now, when I hear this, like distributed teams, big central teams, I think larger organization, who is actually data product thinking for?
So you have different, I'll put it into the different extremes, right? Sometimes you have organizations which have departments which are very compartmentalized, and there is no real need for sharing data between those departments. Most likely, data product thinking is not for you. But also when you're a very small organization where you only have very limited data needs, data product thinking is also probably not something for you. But if you are a larger organization that needs to be able to share and use and consume and combine and whatnot data from different departments, and you want to ease the sharing of data, the collaboration between the different data products and so on, then data product thinking is something that you should definitely look into.
Christoph, just to get to the new subject, right? We talked about like what is all this data product thinking, what benefits does it actually bring to the table? So collaboration, quality, long-term vision, all these things. How do we get there? Right? That's the key. Like, what's the roadmap to get there? If I'm a central team, how do I get to a data product thinking approach?
First, before you get started, get buy-in from highest level leadership that they have to change the way they work with data. And that means that you have to go around all of the domains, all of the departments, and tell them you will be responsible for building your own data products. You can staff your own people, you can choose your own priorities. So that means I can no longer rely on the typical IT business department way of working, where business has a demand, they throw it to the other side to IT, and then they need to implement it. So you have to get rid of that ID first. And it's there that there is often a lot of things that you need to change or talk through the organization before you can actually get there.
Say I have full buy-in from leadership. Leadership thinks like, hey, yes, we want data democratization. We want people to be self-service, right? Because that's what we're talking about. We want to put the responsibility within the departments. What then? What's the next step to take?
Yeah. So next step is most likely, again, also a little bit organizational. You have to think about ownership domains and data products and so forth. So you have to, whatever data initiatives that you have to split them up in different data products. You have to assign ownerships to them. They are usually combined in the concept of domains. How do you link the domains towards them? It's some organizational questions that you need to solve. And after you've done that, you should just get started. What do I mean with that? You really should. What usually works, or what the approach we usually take, is you find valuable initiatives with people who are willing to do things a little bit differently, and you basically build together with them the data products thinking approach with them. And that usually starts with, you need to build some kind of a platform, a core platform, which I often call minimum viable platform. And we usually start with, make it very easy to make data available, make it very easy to share data across different data products. And then you have two data product teams working independently from each other, and you allow them to work on top of those concepts. And what you then do is you make them as successful as fast as possible. And then it's a matter of luring people in to actually make you spread around the success, and you explain how this way of working made them successful, and more and more and more people start flocking in. They will also ask more and more requirements on what needs to be done. So that means you have to adapt your data platform for the new needs that will be coming in. And it's kind of a self-reinforcing loop. But it's very important that people see the benefits of this approach. You cannot force them into such an approach. And what also need to be very careful of is, or what you definitely need to consider is, you need to get into what I often like to call a shared responsibility model. So AWS always points out this model between your data platform team and your use case teams to build the right interfaces so it can be very simple and very easy to be able to interact with each other. You want to do decentralization and self-service. You want to avoid that everybody starts reinventing the wheel, that everybody chooses their own technologies, that they're using their own way of working and so forth. Of course, they can still do it, and it's still their prerogative to do it, but it's a lot of effort to build data products the proper way. Like I said, you need to have all of the prescription and information and contracts and whatever and quality in place. And if they need to do everything themselves, it's a lot of work. So the data platform team, you should position it as enabling an enabler team that enables use case teams to build those data products in a self-service manner. And that often means providing them paved roads with typical initiatives, like, for example, a streaming pipeline, batch processing pipeline, building a dashboard, these kind of stuff.
So making it the right way, actually the easy way.
Yes. Yeah. So if they follow those paved roads, then building a data product for them in self-service should be as simple as possible, and it should also go as fast as possible.
Cool. Now I'm wondering, Christoph, you have done a couple of these implementations of data product thinking at a number of organizations. I'm just wondering, what's the biggest challenge you have encountered so far?
The biggest problem is, like I said, changing the organization. you really need to spend a lot of time. You need to do a lot of evangelization, advocating of those concepts, because I've learned that it's hard for people to change the way they've been working for more or less their whole life. Technically, we can get it to work, and data product thinking can be translated to whatever kind of technology, whether you're using Azure, AWS, Snowflake, Databricks. But I think the organizational part is definitely the biggest hurdle for making it a success.
You have a magic trick, something you always do to get the ball rolling.
Like I mentioned it already, the getting valuable use cases out there, showcase how fast it can be done, show value, make people jealous of this approach way of working, and basically lure them in.
So to say the biggest challenge you've encountered so far, it's rarely about technology, right? So what you're saying is tech, we can always figure that one out. So it's mainly getting the people on board. That's the key point, and doing whatever it takes to get those people on board, and making it easy. That's the key magic trick.
Yes.
I do think it would be interesting. Let's also ask like the audience what they think is actually the most difficult requirement. So for now, the biggest challenge is really changing from a project to a product mindset.
It's more or less confirming what I said, right? Mm-hmm. It's changing the organization, changing the way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And yeah, these results more or less point in a similar kind of direction.
I'll share those results. Now to actually get to it, Christoph, you're also PO of Data Product Portal, right? The name Data Product Portal, right? Data product thinking. How does this actually fit into all of this data product thinking space? What is it?
So Data Product Portal is really about who you are, what you can do, what you're allowed to do, and so forth. So if you log in through single sign-on, and then you get a view of the Data Product Portal. So I'll briefly explain the concepts. I don't want to go too much into detail. If you want to know more about it, you can always reach out. So the Data Product Portal, just to be clear, it's a fully open source Apache v2 licensed project. So it's free to use for you to experiment and just to download and get some kind of an idea about what it's about. So we have two basic concepts, which is the concept of a data product. Every organization has a different definition about what a data product is. So we come with a clear definition of a data product. The data product is a combination of a scope for access to data. It also means everything you need to build your data product or pipeline, which can be codes, it can be access to tooling. For example, if you have scheduling, you need access to Airflow, if you want notebooks, all these kind of things. So all the tooling is linked to a data product, and they share the same data access and access mechanism. And then you have people that work on data products that can use those tools to be able to interact with the data. Mm-hmm. So a big difference is you do not add permissions on sharing and access of data on a user or a person level, but you do it on the product level. Mm-hmm. And then people can then work with the tools to build that product. So here is a list of data products. Again, this is a demo setup. And here you have all the information you have about the data product. Here you see the links with tooling. So from here you can, I'm just going to click something, right? And from here you will immediately have access to, for example, AWS, where you have very scoped access.
You're only sharing one screen, so the audience didn't see that, but there's another tab being open to AWS. I can see this, but they don't.
So yeah, you have to trust my word for it. We're going to change the setup. And then you have, for example, here you have the data sources, the data sets that the data products are producing, where you can request access towards. So every data product has owners, and they have team members that can work on a data product. But it's the same for data sets. Data sets also have an ownership model. And this is where usually people from the business get involved. The business does not really care, is maybe not the right word. about operational stuff of making sure the data is available, but they do care that the data is being used for the right purpose, for the right intent, and so forth.
They often don't care about like what tables it actually is about or how you're exposing it technically, but they do care indeed about like who is using my data.
Yes, that's correct. And I'll give an example about what it means. So, for example, here I'm working on a data product and I want to have access to data. So you can request access to data over here. There are 2 data sets which are available. There can be more, so you can search for them. So it's actually quite easy. We have 2 kinds of data sets. We're gonna add a 3rd one in the future as well. But right now we have the concept of public data sets, and when you request it, you immediately get access towards it. And then you have restricted data sets that require the business to approve access to this data. So you can just request access to data, and then you will see it's appearing over here, and there is a request for data here being made for the drug pipeline data. So intentionally, I'm also using this data for something that I'm an owner of, and you will see that there are requests coming in from data products that want to make use of data. And from here, you can just accept them. And the reason why you're requesting data is basically your data product. So it also makes it way clearer why you are using the data. So we want to add more functionality towards this, but in the end, it's more clear to understand what data access is all about. So over here, I'm going to accept it. And from that point onwards, the data product has access to the data, and automatically configuration and access to tooling is being set up correctly. Well, what it also does, it gives insight about the usage of your data. So over here, I'm a dataset owner, and you want to have some kind of an idea how the data set is being used throughout the organization.
And I think it's a very important thing to know, right? Because typically, the more use you have of your data, the more valuable your data is within an organization.
Yes, that's true. But it's also important to keep track of how your data is being used.
Yes.
And you should be able to assess sometimes, this data usage is actually not warranted, so maybe I'll revoke it. And the nice part of this approach is it's only scoped to that data product. And that means that only that data product will be impacted by it. And if you start adding permissions on a person level, you have no idea why the data is being used, and therefore it's hard to revoke the permissions, but over here it's easy. I'll give an example about what you see over here. So here you have the prediction model data. And coming from the drug pipeline data here, so this is a data set, it gets produced by the prediction model data product that will store the data in a stream and is being made available to those different data products that can consume the data. So just by following this principle, you can build a whole lineage graph of how your data flows through the organization. At the same time, it's very easy to interact with tooling. It's very easy to build processes and ways of working on top of it to be able to adopt the data product thinking approach. So we're an open source project. We're a non-open source project, so we're not. But we already see quite some interest and traction towards the ideas that we're introducing. And right now, we're also looking for organizations where we want to develop this product with. Like I said, everything is open source, everything is Apache v2, but we're looking for collaboration with other enterprises, organizations that want to build those ideas together. The win for you is that we can help you adopt data product thinking approaches and concepts. The win for us is that we get to learn from you as an organization what your needs are, and then we can add and implement those functionalities and so forth. So basically you get free consultancy and we can build a better product out.
So if anybody's interested, they can just like find you on LinkedIn and connect to you?
Definitely.
It's a very difficult question. Can you kind of briefly summarize like the key takeaways that people should take away from this webinar?
Treat data as a product. Put responsibilities where it belongs. start selling the ideas in the organization first.
Mhm.
And it's very important you get buy-in from the highest top of the leadership to go towards such an approach. Otherwise, it's very hard to make change happen.
Ready to dive into some questions?
Shoot.
Shoot.